Hello, my fellow fanfiction readers. It's iDark777 with a fanfiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description. Please like, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notification, and leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts of the story or any other future stories you want me to read or review. So, last episode, I actually did Dueling for Dessert. It was the first in a series. I already did Duel, Twilight versus Twilight. You'll actually find that much back in the channel, in the backlog. So we're going to have to continue on with this series. So we're continuing on with the series. The next story in the series is called, I believe it's called Sonata's Big Duel. Let me just double check. Just in case. I'll click on name, there, blah, blah. Blah, blah, there's... Yeah, Sonata's Big Duel. And honestly, I actually think this is my favorite of the stories. I know I also read... Duel to Save Camp Everfree, and I think that did a lot to set up what's going to happen later on in the series. But I think, in overall, what happens, I think Sonata's Big Duel is probably my favorite, with Camp Everfree probably literally right behind it. So the plot, this takes place immediately after the events of Twilight versus Twilight. Sunset is trying to figure out what happened during the duel with how the Gen X glitched out. At the time, remember, at the time, well, until the end of Duel to Save Camp Everfree, Sunset doesn't know the existence of dual spirits. And, of course, dual spirits is a thing that's been around since the very beginning of YuGiOh, with Mana, a.k.a. the Dark Magician Girl. We know, everyone knows it exists, but I didn't know whether or not the author would actually put it in this world until Twilight versus Twilight, and I thought, okay, maybe they'd be like a little quirky. But it also kind of helped here with Sunset constantly trying to figure out what's going on with these. It's not magic. It's not glitches. It's like, what? Why are the Gen X acting like this? And then we get to a jump cut to a taco place because of course it has to be tacos. And we see Sonata, Adagio, and Aria. Sonata's getting praised because, you know, she's actually wanting to work and live life, and she gets a promotion to night manager. And Adagio gets pissed, saying, "Why ain't I manager? Because you're a lazy bum who can't do shit." And I just realized my microphone is actually kind of facing away from me, so I gotta move my soda and move my microphone closer. And so Adagio kind of bullies Sonata, saying, you're not going to get this job. You're not going to keep this job. And she's like, and she breaks down, and she tries to head back to Equestria through the portal outside of outside of Canterlot High. And so Sunset kind of sees her. She goes after Twilight, thinking, doing mistaken identity, because at this point in the Equestria Girls world, Rainbow Rocks happened, and friendship games happened, but the Sirens don't know that there's two Twilights. So, you know, Sonata kind of freaks out. Equestria Girls Twilight, like, let me back in. And Sunset, you know, she gets pissed, and all the other girls show up. And, you know, Sonata challenges Sunset to a duel. If Sonata wins, then they let her go back home. And if not, you know, they can do whatever. You know, she won't bug him anymore. They think she's still evil, but they don't know that, you know, Sonata was being bullied and is kind of broken, and she just wants to get away from the bullies, which is a fair fact. A lot of people who've been bullied, you know, they usually run away, or worst case scenario, they go hang themselves or overdose or, you know, suicide. Hence why I'm not a big fan of bullying in general. I don't like bullying. And so, at the end, Sunset beats Sonata, and then they find out the truth. They find out that Adagio was non-stop bullying Sonata, and she broke down, and all the girls offered to help her. And now she's staying, Sunset and Sonata are living together, and, you know, everything's on the door. And then it sets up the stage for the next story with Sunset still wondering why were her Lavals still acting like Lavals and not dual spirits. Again, she doesn't know dual spirits exist, so it makes sense. And you have to know the YuGiOh world to kind of get it. honestly think the only part of the story I didn't like was the plot. It's just in compared to Duel to Save Camp Everfree. I think that story kind of did a plot better, which is probably my only complaint. I love cherry sodas. But overall, I think when comparing Sonata's Big Duel and Camp Everfree, I think Camp Everfree did the plot right, but I think Sonata's Big Duel did the characters better. Mainly because there wasn't enough bulk for Camp Everfree. I'll get more into it when I get there. But in terms of the plot, I think, it's just Sonata getting tired of the bullying, just wants to go home, and then we got a duel, and that's it. Nothing really much there. It's shorter. It's shorter than 10,000, so you're probably also wondering, wait, why didn't I just do a reading of it? Which is, admittedly, this one's kind of a weird one. Because on one hand, it's less than 10,000, but it's part of a series. So it's like, do I read it or do I do a review on it? Do you think I should do a review on this story specifically? Because, the other two stories after it, they're over 10,000. So it's like, I'm not sure whether or not I should, do a review first and then just do a regular reading afterwards. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comment section below. Should I just keep with the review, or do I do a review and then another video just for a reading of it? So you can, anyone who's not familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh can, figure out how the games play. Because I actually would want to do this. Do both, because it'd be kind of interesting. Do a review and a reading. Characters, I think the characters were much better than in Camp Everfree. Sonata comes off as believable. She comes out as someone who's broken because she's kind of the most popular siren. In terms of fanfiction, Adagio kind of gets Aria gets a short stick. The only notable Aria fanfiction I know of is the one where she spends all of Equestria Girl's Rainbow Rocks punching people in the throats, like, non-stop. I mean, I'm not joking. She just gets a high on, I'm gonna punch you in the throat! Yeah! And Sonata kind of saves the day. In that story, too. I do like this story. I do like the characters. Sunshine is believable because she doesn't know what's happening because, she comes from a world where magic exists, and now she's in a world where magic is kind of forced through the portal and kind of going into a slight. It's not as bad as the oversaturated world, but there's slight instances of magic, and now we have nothing. And now she's confronting with something that that has that completely out of nowhere, no magic. It's just what's going on. Adagio, you kind of, she's there. She's more important probably later on. And everything, but bulk of the story is just a duel. So there's not really much in terms of characters, because there's only really two characters with only character development, Sonata and Sunset. I also, little tidbit, I don't really like the size of Tetra Ogre, because everyone who knows the story of the Duel Terminal knows that Gishki Zigalius is actually bigger than Tetra Ogre. I mean, you had Tetra Ogre about 4 stories high, a gigantic fish demon, 4 stories high, and you didn't give... Okay, so I'm wondering, wait, Zigalius is known to be bigger than Tetra Ogre, so if Tetra Ogre is 4 stories, how big is Zigalius? I actually would want to know that. 10 stories? 15 stories? Is he as big as a kaiju? Probably not as big as a kaiju. Because those things are about 20, 30, 35 stories high. Grammar error, I didn't see anything wrong with it. The author probably did his research on the spellings of the monsters because, Sonata uses Laval's and Sonata uses Gishis. They're both they're both dual terminal arcs, and they have like really weird names, like especially Giski's, like Zigalius, Ogre, Myogus. There was prime opportunity for the author to possibly misspell that. So it's cool that the author actually managed to spell all the names for the Gishki archetype pretty well. Pacing, I think this one's a little, this one's more faster paced. That's mainly because, you know, this one has less of a setup. It's just, you know, Sunset wondering what will happen with, the Gen X. And then it cuts to Sonata getting a promotion, and then it cuts to Sonata wandering around the outside of the statue, and then harassing Twilight, and then Sunset dueling Sonata, and then there's your uncle. So I think it's a little. So in terms of the pacing, I think the pacing is a little too fast. I think there should have been at least a little bit more setup before the duel. Not too much. I think it could have. I think, you know, you could have focused on more Sonata kind of thinking about her situation and then like looking through her card and stuff like that. And I don't know, it just feels empty on the setup. I think the idea is good. Sonata just simply wanting to go home and challenging Sunset to a duel is fine, but it just there needs to be something more. Just I don't know what, but something. And finally, imagery. We actually get really, compared to the first two duels, where, you know, they're pretty vague in their descriptions of the monsters. We got really, we kind of had a split. We had, like, very vague descriptions of the Lavals, and then we had, like, really odd, specific design, like, wording to describe the Gishkis. That's mainly because when it comes to the artwork of the Gishkis and Lavals are more simple, so you can kind of condense them into like more simple terms. But Gishkis, they're more complex in terms of their design. So I kind of see where the author was going. Like, make the simple more simple looking archetype. Give them less of a description because there's less to go into what they look like, and give the more complex design cards, you know, more wording to this, you know, describe it. It's a good leverage, especially since I'm not really a big fan of Lavals. I actually like Gishkis more. It does set up the events of a bigger story I think is gonna come, because it's this story and Camp Everfree that looks to set that Twilight vs. Twilight, this video, and Duel to Save Camp Everfree. I think it sets up the foundations for probably a really big story. So the author is more than likely leaving little crumb trails to, you know, conceptualize the entirety of the world, and then making one gigantic story, which is something I think, in terms of My Little Pony YuGiOh crossovers, needs, because there's like no good long YuGiOh My Little Pony crossovers, and I'm a big fan of YuGiOh. My favorite archetype is the Prediction Princesses. My favorite card overall is Jinzo and Tirati. And I think overall, when it comes to the story, I think it's better than Twilight vs. Twilight. It's better than Dueling for Dessert. It doesn't carry that much weight, but it sets the stage that the author is planning something big. I don't know what it is. Probably like an interdimensional war between with the Sirens and Principal Cinch. Who knows? Would I recommend the story? If you want to get the entire world set up, then this one kind of requires reading. In terms of like Dueling for Dessert, that's probably the only one that doesn't really need reading, mainly because it just establishes the world. Twilight vs. Twilight is required. This one's required. Duel to Save Camp Everfree is required. I don't know about what's the newest one. Dueling for Our Chance. I don't know if that one's required because I haven't read that one yet. Favorite part? This one I don't really have a favorite part, mainly because there's not enough to really establish. Again, not to mention the fact that, you know, my whole concept, my whole review thing is kind of screwed up through the fact this story is less than 10,000 words. So I guess I don't know. I really don't I don't really have a favorite part of the story. Despite the fact this is actually part of my favorite story, this is probably the one that has no outstanding moment, except for maybe, yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing. Would I fix anything? Not really. Except just, again, maybe add a little more to set up for the duel. But that's about it. Maybe just a couple hundred words, maybe 1,000 words. I don't know. And that's about it. There's not much to say about the story. The next episode will be Duel to Save Camp Everfree. That's the 4th story of the series so far. And then finally, Dueling for a Chance. That's the only story I haven't read. And then probably after that, because the author actually gave his consent, he actually wanted me to guess what ponies would have what archetypes. I figured I'm going to do that. But that's going to wait until after Dueling for a Chance. I'm going to upload Duel to Save Camp Everfree later today. And then Dueling for a Chance and the YuGiOh, what decks they would have, will come out last. So I will see you next time. This has been Dark Symphony 777. And cut.